So, I've checked out Asylum, and it's not too bad. I'll start with a bit of background information. So, Asylum is also known as House of Crazies, and it's a 1972 British horror film, directed by Roy Ward Baker and written by Robert Bloch. Bloch wrote some of the short stories that this film's based on as well. And he also wrote, funnily enough, the novelisation of Hitchcock's Psycho. Now, there are 4 short stories that this film's based on, written by Bloch, and it plays out as an anthology film, with the main plot being about a guy turning up at a mental hospital for a job interview, and the head of the hospital says that one of the doctors has gone crazy and is now one of the patients, and he tasks this guy with figuring out which of the patients is the now ex-doctor, and if he gets it right, he gets the job. So then we have 4 patient stories, with the last patient story tying into the main plot. It's got a great cheap feel, and it's very 70s. It's quite slow paced, and it sort of absorbs you into the environment and the atmosphere, and then when it's lulled you in, then it gets really weird. I must say though, even though the film does start out quite strong, with the first patient story in particular being quite entertaining, it does unfortunately get worse and worse as it goes along. Luckily though, they do save one of the best for last, and the film ends with a whole bunch of crazy and ridiculous plot twists and effects. The second story is of note as well because it stars Peter Cushing, and they really used him in the promotional material. Honestly though, he's not too bad, it's just a shame he's acting alongside a guy with a terrible Italian accent.
Now, what can I do for you, Mr. Rep?
Must be no mistake, is it clear? No mistake.
Everything will be as you wish, I swear.
As enjoyable as it is, I must admit it's quite tame. A lot of the deaths happen off screen and a lot of the violence is quite toned down and minimal. For the first film in this release, I was expecting a little more. Luckily though, where it is lacking in gore, it does make up for with ridiculously over the top and bizarre scenes.
Rest in pieces.
So you've probably noticed, the picture quality on this release isn't great. It's very soft looking. Now, it is kind of a good aesthetic for this sort of film, but it's clearly just a cheap VHS strip or some terrible 16mm print. Also, the sound isn't great, and sometimes the dialogue can be quite difficult to make out.
If only I could see you first.
You'll see me soon enough.
But then, I needed it because of my son.
Let's take a look at the packaging. The case was pretty good, although digitally remastered is a stretch, and I spotted this grammatical error on the back. They really go overboard with this whole description, making the asylum out to be this terribly heinous place, but in reality, we barely see much of the actual asylum, and I would not give this film an 18 certificate. It's a 12A at best. They also refer to the DVD as a video cassette, which I find quite amusing. Maybe they copied this line off the VHS releases. And let's see what we get on the disc. Not much really. Stills, chapter select, filmographies. Pretty standard stuff really for early budget DVD releases. And we also get a trailer. Now, I was expecting this trailer to be for this film, but it's not. It's for a rom-com called Tim, starring Mel Gibson and Catherine from Twin Peaks.
Colleen McCulloch's Tim. You don't read anything?
Can't.
You can't read?
Tim is a tender, heartwarming story of two people who never meant to fall in love.
I'm sure someone who buys Vipco films is also in the market for this. Right? It's really got me wondering what other trailers we're going to come across in this collection.
And a young man who had never loved like this before.
So, to sum up, if you're into older horror films, this one's not too bad. Now, this is not going to scratch any gorehounds' itches, but if you like slower, more atmospheric horror with a bunch of ridiculous moments, then this one might be for you. Now, as for the release itself, it's kind of what I expected, really. It's nothing special, subpar quality, but it doesn't hinder the film too much. Now, if the release has put you off, then there is a Blu-ray out there by Second Sight, and it looks like there's a bunch of special features with that, not just a trailer for bloody Tim. So far, not a bad start, but I think it's only going to get better from there, because next week we're going to be taking a look at Lucio Fulci's The Beyond.